Well, welcome to an episode of Leaving the Pack. I am so excited to have with me travel and hospitality expert, TV personality, best-selling author, podcast host, and my first Georgetown roommate, Sarah Dandashy. Welcome to the show.
Oh my gosh, thanks for having. I was about to say, like, you were going through this laundry list, and I was like, hello, you missed the most important thing. First roommate in college.
Incredible. And no one will hold that title except for
No.
you. Actually, my first roommate ever, really. So,
Yeah, same actually.
yeah,
So,
unbelievable. And I'm so glad this is giving us an opportunity to memorialize a conversation between
totally,
two old roommates who used to have conversations at God knows what hour of the
totally.
day.
And then also to see just how our past and lives have like unfolded and what's happened. I mean, yeah, there's
Yeah, I'm so excited to get into it. So I have to ask you the
sure,
first question that I ask all of our guests. So,
sure.
so as a podcast is named Leaving the Pack, I'd love to hear just, right off the cuff, what does that mean to you, and how do you feel like that's applied to your own journey?
Leaving the pack. I mean, for me, it, the first thing it obviously reminds me of is that famous saying, it's like march to the beat of your own drum.
Hmm.
And I've always kind of done that just because of like my background, and I grew up living all over. I was always an other. I was always either like the American girl living overseas, or then coming back to the States and being the person who was American but like not really American. And So for me it's always been like, yeah, you just like carve out your own path all the
Yeah,
time. And but what now, that being said, there is a time and place for the pack. So I
right.
feel like it's very much like maybe that's like the time in your life where you're learning and you're growing, but then at a certain point you have to like trust your own like internal north star and be
Hmm.
like, all right, we're just going to veer off and we're going to do this, and it's going to be great. And it's all those people, all advances that we've ever had in society and world and history, from art to politics to whatever. All of the individuals that have moved the meter of society have all left the pack. And it's cool to be part of that group, I think.
So, I mean, you mentioned even kind of your own childhood, like being raised overseas and coming, like, so for our listeners who don't know you, can you kind of go into your background? Because I feel like it's so unique, and that people would just, I honestly think when you say like judging a person by like a book by its cover, people will probably look at you and just be like, oh, she must be like from Alabama
Or
and
California.
blonde,
Yeah.
gorgeous blonde, blue eyes, and could never imagine. I mean, I remember even when we first met, I was like, you look exactly like your mom, who's gorgeous, by the way, and timeless.
She's amazing.
But I think for those who don't know, it'd be great to hear kind of how you were raised.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And it's so, I love that you brought that up because again, like, you know it too.
Yeah.
So yeah, so basically I'm half Lebanese. So my dad is from the Middle East. We've got all my family is like in the Middle East as well as in Europe. And so despite my blonde hair and blue eyes, Muhammad is one of my middle names. Love to
Yeah.
drop that in. That's a fun party trick. Sometimes it's fun, sometimes not so fun.
Yeah, I was gonna say right now must be super fun.
Really interesting at TSA.
Yeah,
Thank goodness for global entry.
right.
Um, but yeah, so that being said, my parents got together in the States, but I was born in the States, but I lived in Saudi Arabia until I was 6. And then my parents separated. Then my mom and I ended up living in London for a year. And then from 8 to 18, I lived in Atlanta. So I always like to say, like, I've got a little bit of this, like, definitely an international vibe, a little bit of this like properness that you get from living in London, and then that dirty South that you get from living in Atlanta. That's the part that I don't think a lot of people will will necessarily pinpoint. They'll just be like, oh, she's, either from New York or this or
Yeah.
whatever. And I'm like, oh, don't underestimate
Don't
the
get
dirty
it
South.
twisted.
Okay. Okay.
So I remember getting a letter from you because I think at Georgetown,
Oh
right?
my gosh, wait, is this before we became roommates?
Yes. So they share, right, our right, because we were not using technology in any way that we use it
Did
today.
you sent this to me recently, right?
Yes. So they give you like just our address.
I'm embarrassed.
And no, I was like, and you told me all about it, just as you said, like I was born in like, the Middle East,
Pennsylvania.
Saudi
Yeah, yeah,
Arabia,
exactly.
London, Atlanta. And I was like, I'm gonna have the coolest roommate possible. And you said you were interested in like acting, like producing
Yeah.
and acting, but you were going to the School of Foreign Service. And I just felt like it was the epitome of the Georgetown experience, right? Because Georgetown is so international. And I
Very
was
international.
thinking, like, my first person, even via letter,
Hmm.
that I'm interacting with who's going to be my roommate, just like epitomizes like why I went to Georgetown, which is to really be exposed to so many different cultures. And
Yeah.
I think especially those that were attracted to like the School of Foreign Service, like
Hmm.
yourself, had such an international, either personal experience or like
Yeah.
an international
Background.
mindset or
Yeah.
background or desire to, explore that as a career. I
Yeah.
mean, I have to say, you probably use your School of Foreign Service background in the most unique of ways, like one of the most unique ways.
Yeah.
But
Definitely.
what made you like with that interest in TV, producing film, and your amazing interest in music too? Let's not forget that. And that's
Okay.
that's where we know where Atlanta Dirty South music
The
came in.
Atlanta rubbed off. Oh my gosh.
What attracted to you? Was it really like how you were raised, that kind of the international exposure you had that attracted you to coming to school for foreign service, right? Because you had such a passion at a really young age for producing and acting, right? Because
Yeah,
there's other schools that you could have easily gone
totally.
into and gone that direction. What attracted you to go that route?
So, I mean, truthfully, I definitely had parents that were like, or my mom and grandparents that were like, well, you know, you can get a degree in something like producing and acting in this, but it's like, would you like something, like, would you like, it as in like slightly guiding me,
Oh
like,
yeah.
wouldn't it be
As every
more
immigrant parent is like, this is a
totally,
rhetorical question. You need
totally,
to make
like
money after school.
or just like something that's going to be a little bit more intellectually like stimulating and more of an academic approach. I think that was more of like the angle that they took. Don't you want something that's going to be a little bit more academic? And then so that's when I was like, okay, well, sure, and I can have these creative pursuits, but like let me look a little bit more into something that would be like an international relations degree. And
Right.
what really stood out for me with the School of Foreign Service is they specifically had a major that was culture and politics. And to me, at that point, I was like, that's what it is. It's like,
Yeah.
I love the idea of almost having a global perspective on culture and politics. And culture and politics also includes film, TV,
Yes.
music, all of these things that make us who we are. That it then made sense. So it wasn't necessarily just like, oh, I'm studying international law, which, by the way, totally fine, but I could already see how I would be able to kind of have a more of a global outlook
Hmm.
on anything creative that I would end up doing. And it, it's, looking back on my path, it's so weird because it's like none of it makes sense, but then it also all makes
I was
sense.
gonna say, I feel like it all makes sense, but you could have never really like. I was thinking our
Predicted it.
freshman dorm, we couldn't chart out. The world looks
No.
so different than it does now. I was laughing so hard when we had scheduled this because I was thinking about how our love for music really came into play when we had to pick what song we were gonna leave on our voicemail, which was critical at the time because if someone was
Very
going to
critical.
call our dorm room, they had to know one, we were too busy to be in our room, and
Yes.
two, impressed by our musical choice. And do you remember what we picked?
I actually don't remember. What did we pick?
We left a fun voicemail about like we were out and we're not in our room, and then we ended it with NSYNC's Bye Bye Bye. And I was like,
Checks out.
wow, we nailed it. We nailed it.
Well, what I also find so funny is I do remember this is that you because O Town was also kind of big at the
Oh
time.
yeah.
And so like we talked about O Town and then fast forward a few years later, like maybe even 10 years later, I'm in Los Angeles and one of the band members from O Town lived
No.
in my apartment building.
No
And then what
way.
would he do? He would actually be at the pool hanging out and he would be doing the bye bye. He would be doing instinct dances. And I'm like, wait, what? What in the 2000s brain is happening
Oh,
right
that's
now? I don't know.
amazing. Oh my God, what
Totally.
an LA moment.
Very LA moment. And also full circle and like just was so indicative to us
I
too.
know. So I was thinking about like maybe charting out how you came into hospitality, but for me, I remember one of my first exposures with you in hospitality was working at a restaurant in Georgetown,
Yes.
where I
Yes.
was like, God, thank God I know someone here because my college budget is so grateful that my friend works here and we can split like leftovers and
Yeah.
do all these things. But would you consider that your like first touch into hospitality?
Interesting. For those that are listening, Vina's talking about Paulo's, this restaurant
Yes.
Paulo's in Georgetown, which is where I first started. You are correct. It's funny. I actually normally consider my first well, I always say my first entree into hotels was the Four Seasons, but you are correct. I did first start at Paulo. I love that you know my history better than I do.
Oh
Okay.
yeah. I mean, and Paolo's was like one of
Oh,
the
it was the
premier
spot.
restaurants in
With that
Georgetown.
yeah, and with the tapenade that they had and everything,
Oh
and
my God.
so that was such a great experience. I mean, it was a wonderful, I remember just meeting so many wonderful people there. I loved it. For me, it gave me a very different environment to be in than just like the school academic environment. And so for me, I really loved that and thrived with that. So that was definitely like my entree into it. But then like really where things started to shift a bit more was when I ended up at the Four Seasons, but like maybe like a year later or whatever it was.
Which is
So
amazing because that was all during school too.
yeah,
So what
yeah,
made you, because I mean, I would say it was a mixed bag at Georgetown, right? People that definitely worked through school because of necessity, but
yeah,
not usually. It was more so like of interest. Like
yeah,
they were trying out different internships or different, places in Georgetown. And then
hmm,
there were people that, worked on the Hill, like, and
yeah,
so coming from where you were studying,
yeah,
right? So what made you kind of decide, instead of going to the Hill or instead of even auditioning for acting
yeah,
opportunities, which were plenty in DC, like
yeah.
what made you think like maybe I'll work for the Four Seasons?
Yeah. Well, my cousin was working at the Four Seasons at the time. So for me, like when it came to working throughout school, I was definitely very lucky in that, like the actual like tuition and everything was covered. And for me, I wanted to be able to cover some things. And
Sure.
so the idea of like I can pay for my cell phone bill,
Which
and
was
I can
like
pay
kind of new at the time. That's
totally
what we're
my
paying for minutes.
yeah, my Razor cell phone,
Yep, there we go.
um, which by the way, my mom now has my old phone number from there because it was such a great phone number. And so for me, that's what I saw. Work was twofold. It was a way for me to make some money so that like I didn't have to just rely on my parents for everything. I
Yep.
did not want that. And I was very appreciative for what they did help with, but I was like, look, I can pay for my food, I can pay for my cell phone bill and just learn how to like make money that way. And then I somewhat felt at the time that and as wonderful as Georgetown is, it felt very insulated. Like it was a very
Absolutely.
specific, in general, the type of individuals that were going there. And I was like, I want a taste of real life.
Yeah.
And so for me, working at a restaurant gave me a taste of real life. Then my cousin, I literally ended up bumping into my cousin,
On
like
M
first
Street?
cousin, yeah, on M Street, and he was working at the Four Seasons. So all of a sudden, I immediately had like a older brother, so to speak, in
Yeah.
town. And then as time went by, he was like, well, why work at this restaurant for $9 an hour when you can come work here for 14 an hour? And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna
Which
be
was a lot
rich.
of money then.
It was a big difference.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, well, let's see. And so that's how I got into working at the Four Seasons. And I still, to this day, I am so grateful for that opportunity as far as with my career because they were so good at training. And I
Yeah.
was, I don't know, maybe just shy of turning 19 or just
Wow.
19 when I
Yeah.
started there. So I was a clean slate. So everything that they taught, and we did like a 2 or 3 day onboarding at the Four Seasons as far as behavior, service, their ethos, all of that, that I still carry with me to this day. And I don't think their onboarding is maybe as intense these days, but wow, was that fantastic. And especially, I didn't have any bad habits. I didn't,
Right.
I was so new to it. So
Just like a
I
complete sponge.
totally, exactly. So it was a great way to learn and get into it. And no joke, even just last week I was somewhere and I pay attention to see like how do the housekeepers interact with me as we're walking down the hallway? Do they step to the side and say, good morning or good afternoon, or do they not make any eye contact at all? These are things that I learned so many years ago, and I'm always picking up on it, just because it's been so ingrained in me. So that's how I ended up getting into hotels there, which is
Yeah,
very
and
cool.
what an incredible first experience for a
Yeah,
hotel because you're already starting. I mean, at Georgetown, like Four Seasons was the nicest hotel in the
sure.
area without like
Yeah.
hands down. So, did you realize even at the time that you were kind of starting at the top, if you will, or was it more like in retrospect as your career evolves, you realize like how good your training was and how, it probably started you, I think like anywhere when you're looking for a new job to see one of your first jobs at a hotel was already at the Four Seasons, like future employers are also thinking like, wow, she already started at one of the best places.
Well, yeah, I mean, yes and no. I mean, I think it was definitely, for me, it was almost like more of like yeah, I definitely knew that was entering in a world that was very high end and had high standards. Um, I found it almost more fascinating who was coming in because
Yeah.
that was really interesting. When you're that age too, it's like I remember like Chris Tucker coming in and Arnold Schwarzenegger. I mean, I had to tell Arnold Schwarzenegger he couldn't smoke a cigar in the lounge area upstairs. And it was so funny. People
You're
were
like,
like,
I'm
oh my,
19.
yeah,
Can
well,
you?
no, everybody was nervous to tell him. And I was like, I'm not, I'll go
Yeah,
tell him. Like,
right.
that's gross.
There you go. I mean, but that's the beauty of being that age too,
Yeah,
right?
totally.
Not too in your head.
Totally, exactly. And so it was really great to have that experience. I mean, to me, it was just like all new, and I didn't know how it would play out or anything. And there were things that I liked about it, and there were things that were definitely like, no, I think at that point, like I really enjoyed everything about it because it was so, putting on a uniform didn't feel weird. It was like, oh, it's like my costume type
Yeah.
thing. And then, but it's funny because it ended up coming such full circle because I then later on went on to become a concierge. I became part of Lake Claytor, which is the Gold Keys of concierge, and two of the concierge at that property, and there might have even been more, were part of Lake Claytor and were very, very highly respected. So next thing you know, I'm in Washington, D.C. We're at a conference and we're having this whole full circle moment. And I'm like, do you
Wow.
guys remember when I was 19 working in the lobby lounge? And now here I am with you guys,
Um,
also a concierge and whatever. So
so
it's
wild.
crazy how it ends up being very full circle when you least expect it.
Yeah. So for those that don't know, what are the gold keys or those kind of milestones that concierge
Yeah.
gets to?
So, Lake Claytor, which literally stands for the Gold Keys in French, is a professional organization of of concierge. It's an international organization, and it's a very prestigious and difficult organization to get. You don't just get it just because you've been a concierge. You have to have a minimum requirement of so many years.
Hmm.
You have to be tested. You have to have two sponsors.
Oh, wow.
It is like you are fully integrated into the community, because one of the big things as far as what makes a concierge so wonderful and great at what they do, they have to have the right attitude, that like we're going to figure it out attitude.
Yep.
But on top of that, it's having the contacts. And so becoming a part of this organization, all of a sudden you are part of this sort of like band, this brotherhood and sisterhood of concierge that like get it. Like we're
Mhm.
all of the same mindset. Even if we're in different cities, you instantly have a connection in another city. And it's definitely very challenging to become a part of. But it was, again, it was another moment that like, where you look back on your career and you had different moments that
Yeah.
take your career to the next level. Becoming a part of that really took my career to the next level for sure. So always grateful for that.
So how did you reconcile like the experience that you were getting at the Four Seasons with, now being in college as people were kind of thinking like, what's happening next? Like, I remember when I went to Ireland to study abroad, you
Mhm.
decided to stay back and go to
Went to
NYU
NYU.
for
Yes.
producing. And so, which I thought was so cool because I think it was really an opportunity for everyone to kind of
Yeah.
choose to explore something different. Some people that meant a different country.
Yeah.
But for you, it meant also like following a passion that you came into school with, but that
Mhm.
Georgetown didn't specialize in.
Yeah.
So what did that mean for you, like that experience? And then it's such a critical time, like your junior year of college, because now suddenly people are thinking, junior year
What's next?
internships,
Yeah.
college, and you're coming in also with this unique experience in hospitality. Like what did that mean for you at that age and that time?
By the way, I'm like loving this conversation because you were right there,
Yes.
like on the front, like because of how long we've known each other. And
Yeah.
it's so different having this conversation with you versus others that were, you're explaining it to them as an adult, 20
Right.
plus years later. But I love that you bring this up. So
Well, I
for
mean, I remember sitting there and being like, are
being
you
like,
going to study abroad? Like, because you also had
yeah,
such an interest in experiencing other cultures, which obviously you
yeah,
still do today. You do it
totally.
for your job. So it was like,
Totally.
as a, 21-year-old something, it's like such a critical moment. And I
Yeah.
just still remember you saying, I'm going to stay and go to NYU. And I was like, wait, what? Is that a
You're like,
possibility?
somebody was leaving the pack real
There we go.
early.
That's what
But
I'm saying.
again, so yeah, for me, I looked at it and I was like, look, I've had the incredible opportunity already at that point. Maybe by 1920, like I'd already lived overseas, I'd already traveled overseas. I knew that I was going to continue to have a lot of those opportunities moving forward. So for me, I always, and I also always did summer school, which I
Yep.
know not, which most people did not do. And I started summer school before we even started freshman year, which again shows you just like always doing things a little bit differently. But
Yeah.
when I chose that, I was like, well, I could go. Like I've already studied abroad. I was very lucky that I had the opportunities to study a couple of summers while I was in high school in Paris,
Yeah.
and I got to go to Australia. And so for me, I was like, well, I've kind of done that. How can I advance my career? And I know that I still, I mean, and to this day, I mean, this passion for film and TV. And at that time, NYU was doing a Spring at Tisch program, and it teed up perfectly. And so I was like, maybe this might also be a way for me to like dabble in that and see like, did I miss out
Yeah.
on solely studying like producing and acting? And
Absolutely.
so it was a great opportunity to go there because like I got to have a fantastic education in that, in something I was passionate in.
In a
But then
city like New York.
in a city like New
Yeah.
York, but more so, it gave me so much more of an appreciation for what education I was getting at Georgetown. Because
Oh,
I
interesting.
definitely took that for granted. Because at first I was like, ugh, like I definitely struggled with it for a while. I was like, why am I here? Like I can do this. I feel like I'm jumping through academic hoops And it's like, but is it necessarily my passion?
Right.
And then after going there, and I was like, no, Georgetown are the academic reps, so to
Yeah.
speak, that
Hmm.
I need and I'm like forever grateful for. And so, and I was glad that I had to have a taste of the other, but I'm like, no, this makes sense. This all worked out for a reason. And then when I came back from that, I ended up getting an internship at a radio
Oh,
station.
I remember
So
that.
hot
Hot 99.5.
99.5, which is great. Again, also so unique and different. And I don't know that I would have necessarily gotten that if I had worked elsewhere. And it was so perfect because it combined my love for music. I think now it's like doing all these podcasts, this like I've always been around a microphone. It's
Yeah,
very
absolutely.
easy. Again, how that comes full circle. But
Yeah.
for me, I was like, oh, it's fun and it's cool and it's creative. And so by senior year, I was going to school while also because they actually hired me to be their assistant producer of their morning show, as well as I was then bartending at the time because
Why not?
radio didn't pay a lot. And so I'm like, well, I need to now like make
Yeah.
actual money. So it's like, so when people to this day, they're like, oh my gosh, you do so many things. And I'm like,
You've like, I've
I
always been doing
I'm
so
just
many things.
built this way. Somebody said it actually best just 2 weeks ago. They're like, your motor just runs different. Like
Yeah.
or somebody else, my client said I had a different cycle speed, but I misheard him and I thought him say that I had a different psycho speed. I was like, I'm
And you're
not
like,
psycho.
"What?" I feel
He
like you
said
don't know me enough to
cycle.
call me psycho.
He was like cycle. And I was like, oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Cycle speed for sure.
Well, I
Love
have
it.
to so appreciate you because I think in a place like Georgetown, and especially, I mean, for those that don't know, Georgetown is separate into like four different schools.
Sure. Yep.
And so before you even enter college and you know anything about anything, you have to like
Yeah.
mark on your application like
Hmm.
where you're gonna study. And
And you're
shockingly,
applying for that specific school.
yeah, and shockingly, it's very difficult once you're there to switch into different schools. Like, and I really have to appreciate that you always found a way to merge like your interests and
Hmm.
find like a pathway, whether it's inside school, whether it was studying abroad in a non-traditional sense for Georgetown, to
Hmm.
find your own path, to test out your own interests, and then
Yeah.
do it all at once too, is remarkable. But speaking of like academic reps, I was
Yeah.
actually thinking of you studying for map of the modern
Oh
world.
my gosh. It was only like one credit and it was so hard.
So you have to explain because it's such a
Yeah,
unique like rite of passage. So you have to
completely.
explain what that is.
Okay, so well, here's like a couple things too. So with the different schools at Georgetown, there were also different acceptance rates.
Oh, absolutely.
Like the
School of
business
Foreign
school,
Service by far the
the school of foreign
hardest.
service was the hardest school to get
Yeah.
into. So it's like the
Because it's so
nerds of
unique
nerds.
in the
Yes,
country
and
too.
so totally so unique. And then once you're in it, it's so like you have so many requirements that in essence you only have the equivalent of 4 electives in 4 years.
Yeah,
So
wild.
that's why I always took summer school because I'm like, if I just did this curriculum, I would lose my mind.
Yeah.
So I very quickly realized I was like, well, why? Like, I didn't love taking econ classes. And so I was like, well, why go to econ for 3 months when I can just do it in a month? More
Yeah.
intense, but in the summertime. And then, wow, I've just created, I can take
Space.
a painting class or I
Right.
can do a music class. And
Yeah.
so that's why I was very strategic with that. And I always did summer school so I could free up and then I had more electives. I think by the time I graduated, I think I was probably one of the only students that had so many credits. Like I had the equivalent of a minor in women's studies as well as performing arts,
Yeah.
which
I
they
remember
didn't really know what to do with because nobody had ever done that
that.
before.
They're like, when did you fit this in
They're like,
exactly?
wait, what? Um, so yeah, so that was always very much like my interest. But to go back to the school foreign service, so you only have equivalent of 4 electives in 4 years, and then you have to be proficient in a foreign language. So and that's a separate test that
Yeah.
you could go in and be proficient right away, or you have to just study until you can pass your proficiency, and that means reading a newspaper in that language and having a full-on 15-minute conversation about what you just read.
Yeah.
There's no getting around it. Like you really have to do it. And
What was
then
your
you
language
also,
again?
I ended up doing French.
Yeah,
So
I
I
bet.
was fluent in French. Then I decided I was like, oh, maybe I'll be cute. I'll do Arabic because I'm half Lebanese.
Oh, I
And then
remember you.
very quickly realized, oh, I'm not going to be fluent in this to pass this test. So I went back to French, and my brain was so like French, Arabic, it was English, it was all over the place.
I remember on our
Where,
freshman floor, there were people that were doing like Arabic also.
yes,
And you guys would all be in the lounge, like
yeah.
trying. And I was like, what are they doing? Why did they do
You're like,
this
what?
to themselves?
Totally. It was so crazy because, again, it's not just like learning for fun. Like you actually had to be proficient, and you
Yeah,
could prove proficiency after one quarter of, or like one semester of taking the language, or after six. It
yeah,
all depended. But so you have to be proficient in a foreign language. You had to pass map of the modern world, where basically the test is you have to be able to like name in essence all the countries in the world. So
yeah,
all the countries, list them like islands, no different bodies of water, you name it. Like, hey, what is this mountain range? And you're like, uh, and it's crazy because it's only like one credit, but
but
you,
you knew when everyone was studying for that test.
oh, yeah, you did. Yeah, you did. It was crazy. So it was a very, it was so combining what was so unique to Georgetown, being a Jesuit school, which meant that we had theology
Yeah.
classes,
Problem
different
of
things.
God.
Yeah, the problem of
Yeah,
God,
sorry.
where most people didn't have that in as a requirement in any of their academic
Yeah,
studies. So combining that, which is so unique to Georgetown, whatever school you're in,
right.
along with all the requirements for specifically the School of Foreign Service, it really means like you are studying like it's very specific. But
Yeah.
again, it's like I wouldn't change it for the world. It was hard, not gonna lie. It was very hard, but and I
Well,
had moments where I'm like, what am I
I
doing?
was
But
just thinking, like, if you haven't already, you should take one of those like maps that you studied from and now like pin all the places your job has,
yeah.
in this journey of where you are from Georgetown to today, like all the places that your job has taken you.
That's interesting. I've never like put it on a map. I should. I definitely have kept a country list, which is not that high, surprisingly.
Really?
No, well, because like there was a long period of time where I was working in hotels and before I was working for myself, and I had very much, and I was also working in film and TV, and so I didn't really travel.
Yeah.
I didn't really travel for like a long time because I get FOMO, like what am I going to miss out on if I leave town?
Yeah,
And then
exactly.
now I
Well,
practice
I
living abroad.
bet from those skills of map of the modern world, any map you've ever been given in your entire life of any city, any place, you will have it memorized
Yes.
without a doubt. So after school, I mean, I think something that we've bonded on, I think as like just immigrant children,
Yeah.
is that any passion that you may pursue has
Mhm.
to have also some logical dotted line to how are
100%.
you going to support yourself or like
Totally.
have you thought this all the way through and
Totally.
knowing that your dad is in finance like and a businessman
Oh my
himself.
God, I'm loving this.
Yeah, and your mom though, who I feel like you guys had such a beautiful relationship. Like I have always found it remarkable like how open her support have of you has always been. I just never had the pleasure of meeting your dad as much as your mom, but
Yeah.
like she seemed to always just be in your corner for like creative pursuits, whatever it looked like. But she's still your mom, right? So she wants to know, and combined with your mom and your father, like
Yeah.
it is only natural and you're an only child. Like they want to
100%.
make sure that, especially at this like delicate age of like 21, 22,
Mhm.
what is that path? look like? Like, I was
Yeah.
so thrilled when you decided to move to LA. And I think thinking like, at that age, you're just like, oh my God, she's gonna do it and she's gonna pursue all her passions. But like, that may look very different talking to your
Yeah.
parents. So, like, what did that look like for you? Like, because you had the support, right? Like, you
Yeah.
had the support and belief that you have graduated from an amazing school. You've made that journey your own. Like you studied, you experienced, you did the things that so many people like wouldn't have charted for themselves.
Hmm.
But at the end of the day, they still want you to want as parents to feel like you're secure. And like you don't
Yeah.
have to figure everything out, but
Yeah.
like what was that talk like with them?
Well, so it's interesting. So, I mean, truthfully, with my dad, it was far more hands off, just because I am so much closer to my mom than my dad, and it was kind of like, well, I'm doing this, and it's like I never asked for any financial support, so it's like he
Yeah.
can't really
But did he
have
come from
much to
that
say.
financial background?
Oh,
Like, how
sure.
are you going to make, like, how are you supposed to make
Totally.
ends
Well, it
meet?
was like, well, he knew that I would be resourceful enough because again, I had already been working. So I don't think he was concerned with that. But then he was like, well, he was definitely curious to see how I'd make a career. More
Sure.
so with him, I definitely had many conversations later in different points, and even like to this day, that we'll have conversations. He's like, well, so long as you're making money, I mean, I think he understands how I make money now. I don't, but I'm always like, I don't ask you for money, so I think
Yeah.
I'm doing okay.
Right.
Um,
Exactly.
whereas, so my mother was very, very different. And by the way, I do actually have to like say this because I was like trying to like hold back tears just before this call. I was just talking with my mom, and nobody knows this, but it will be people will know by the time this is shared. My mom just quit her job today. She was living in Pennsylvania. She quit
Wow.
her job today, and I'm meeting her tomorrow in Las Vegas. And she is moving to Las Vegas,
No way.
and I'm going to be helping her with that transition. And she will probably be coming on board and working for me very shortly. So
What?
this is so
Oh my
cool
God,
that like
that's
you were
so
saying all of that,
cool.
and it's very cool. So it's a very cool, and she says hi, by the way. So
Oh,
she misses
love
you.
her.
Oh my gosh, wow, I just got tears. But it's like it's a super cool thing. So yeah, my mom was always very supportive to this day. I mean, even like as she's going through this big transition, well, even just yesterday or 2 days ago, something happened. Wow, I'm really like, whoo, hey, we're good, we're good. Um, I'm just like so proud. I'm so proud of her
Yeah,
to
I need
be
to
her
hear more
age
about this.
and to be like, she was like, I need to make a change, and like,
She's
she like
leaving the pack.
she is, and like to be doing that at this age, and I keep like today, she no joke handed in her resignation letter like 2 hours ago, and
Wow.
I
And
kept
what
checking
was
in on
she
her.
doing in Pennsylvania?
She was working, so she was selling cars and
She would do
which
great.
was
I would buy
crazy.
anything from your
Yeah,
mom.
for sure. And she was doing really well with that, but she had moved back to be in Pennsylvania to be closer to my grandparents, her parents. My grandfather had since passed away, 96, full life.
Wow.
My grandmother is now 96, still
Yeah.
chugging along, but then all of a sudden she had this moment. She was coming up on a big birthday and she's like, I've been making decisions for other people my whole life. Like, whether it's for me, her daughter, or like being
Mhm.
in a marriage, her husband, or this. And then the most recent one when she moved to Pennsylvania was to be closer to her parents. And then she was like, what do I want? And I've been telling her for years, like,
Yeah.
what do you want? I was like, I will support you in anything. You could tell me you want to move to Japan.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll
Right.
come see you in Japan.
Yeah.
Like, let's do this. And
Yeah.
so for her, so last October, her birthday was in January. She was like trying to suss out places, and she was like, I need a break. And so she'd been working at this job for the past 8 years, and it kind of started as something like she didn't want to work a 9 to 5 job, so then she
Hmm.
ended up working a 9 to 9 job because for anybody that knows car sales, you work all the
Yeah.
time. I was like, you would have probably been better off in a 9 to 5 job, but okay. um and she was like, I need a break, I haven't left, I'm going crazy, let me come out to you, maybe we can look at like Palm Springs or whatever. So she comes out and I'm like, I think Palm Springs will be too sleepy for you. We had talked about Vegas, let's go. and we drive to Vegas literally last October. And mind you, for the timestamp of this, it's September 3rd. So let's just say August 15th
Right.
ish or so last year. She comes out, we go and we spend one night in Vegas, off the strip because all of the hotels on the strip are so expensive, but it was perfect because it would be where she would be living. And as soon as we
And
like
why
drove it,
Vegas out of all places?
I don't know. She was just so she's always loved like a desert environment.
Okay.
And she really thought that like it was just like, let's see. Mind you, she had not been back to Vegas since 1969 when her parents took her through when she was 14 years old on a
No
road trip
way.
across the country. So she like knew nothing about Vegas.
Wow.
Like like at all. But she was just like, I don't know, I have a feeling. And as soon as we got into Vegas, she was like, this is it. And I'm
What? You're like, is
like, wait, like we didn't even get anywhere yet. Let's get off the
it? Mom,
highway.
we just checked into the hotel.
I know. And so, yeah, she kind of knew. And then I saw her at Thanksgiving and, she had a very big house. So I myself with my cousin, we started chipping away at one of her rooms.
Yeah.
And then since pretty much is November until July, she had a lot of stuff and she had to really majorly downsize. And she worked morning, noon, and night, all of her free
Wow.
time on clearing up her place, got her house on the market, and within 3 days, she had like 8 offers on her house and she sold her
Oh,
house. I mean, it was like
amazing.
when you talk about
Especially in this climate.
in this, and it's one of those things that's a reminder that I think applies to all of us. I think about it when I moved to Los Angeles. I think about I lived in New York for a brief stint. And anytime that we make major changes, if it's meant to happen,
Yeah.
it's amazing how frictionless
Mm-hmm.
that transition can be. Like, yes, she had a lot of legwork to do to like get her house in shape to sell, but as soon as it was on the market, it went.
Yep.
And like everything is just kind of conspiring to bring her out here. And I love that she's having this moment that she feels like she's making a decision for herself.
Yeah.
And it's a very exciting time. And it's like, so this time tomorrow, I'll be driving to Las Vegas to meet her and we'll start looking at some furnished apartments for her to kind of settle in until she gets a home.
So what would you, and I'll get back to our original question, but what would you envision her doing with you?
So I've got a couple things. So right now I'm gonna probably have her help me with like some like admin stuff and just
Yep.
like really learning the business. And then I have a couple of private concierge clients that sometimes they ask me for some things that's like we need research on and that. And so I'll have her kind of be working underneath me while I have these requests come in.
Sure.
So it'll
Yeah.
still be under my umbrella and through me. And then but I want her to because a lot of the work I do is obviously it's through me, so I need to make sure that it's
It's
right.
relationship based
It's
too.
exactly.
Yeah.
And so for that, it's like getting her to really understand. Like we had a whole talk about Chat GPT this morning,
Oh,
because
wow.
like she did something and she was like, "Well, I use like AI," and I was like, "Well, how did you use it? What?" And she was
Yeah.
like, "Well, I googled." Use AI to write this, and it was like it didn't work. And I was like, wait, do you know that ChatGPT is its own thing than like typing use AI in Google? So there will be some learning
There's been a
curves.
learning curve. I was gonna say there'll be a learning curve. That's okay.
Oh, and I had to be like,
Yeah.
be kind, be kind. This woman has been so supportive to you, and I was like, wait, what?
Yeah.
But yeah, but definitely, I envision her really helping kind of take over like concierge side of my business, or like at least like helping run that in the background while I'm physically all over the place. But we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll kind of see where her strengths lie. The good thing is that my business has so many different aspects to it.
Right.
We'll see what works for her, what works for me and us,
Yeah.
and develop it from there. So,
I mean, what a beautiful moment though to like as I was saying, I just have so witnessed your mom being so supportive, but I think it's so normal for women and especially those who are in a position to be mothers to
yeah,
have these moments where they've realized they've dedicated so much of their life and decisions around those that
to
they
others. Yeah,
love. And I think she loves so hard that
totally.
it doesn't feel like a sacrifice, right? Because she's getting something from it too, because those
Yeah,
relationships show. But how amazing to have that moment that she's having right now. And I mean, I'm with you. I believe in such manifestation of, when you really want something to come together. Like you said, it can be frictionless when the moment is
yeah,
right for you. And
totally.
what an opportunity for both of you to
It'll be
like
very
work
cool,
together.
and I mean, and like I haven't lived on the same coast as my mother. I just celebrated my 20 years in Los Angeles, so I haven't lived on the
Wild.
same coast as my mother in 20 years, and I'm very excited for her to be closer. And there's a couple of different things that I'm even exploring that just like potentially with my business, like does it make sense for me to even move part of it there? So who
Yeah.
knows? But now that like first goal is to like kind of get her there, get her settled, and then see what sort of shifts make sense. But and
And
I
we're
have
gonna
a
have to
few
have a
time.
part two, like a few months from now. Get your mom on
Yeah.
the line and being like, "So, how's it
Sarah
working
is such a hard boss.
out?" So, what was like? I mean, now looking back, as you say, 20 years ago, like, do you
Yeah.
felt like when you were talking to your parents back then, were they there for the journey? Was it?
Yeah. My mom definitely was. For sure. My mom was there for the journey. She's been there for every single big decision I've had to make career-wise. Um, and she's a great sounding board. Sometimes it's like I and she's a sounding board because like sometimes she'll be like uh sometimes it makes sense and it's like I go in the path that it makes sense to her. Sometimes we talk it through and it's like, no, this actually makes sense. And she's like, okay, I agree with you to like maybe make a bit of a different decision that than what she would have thought of originally. So she's very open-minded.
That's
And so,
great.
or if she just doesn't know, she's like, I don't know, but like, let's talk it out.
Yeah.
Which is also very much my mindset.
Right.
I'm always like, I don't know. Not if it's something I have, there's no ego around I have no ego around knowledge. And I think that
Yeah.
that's such an interesting thing because people are like, do you have imposter syndrome or this or that? And that's a huge topic. And I'm like, no, because like you know what you know and you are where you are. And it's like, so long as you like fully embrace where you are and like nobody's judging you for what you don't know. They just want to know that like you care enough to figure it out,
Yeah, I was gonna
whatever
say
it
maybe
is.
it's not about what you don't know, it's like your attitude around it.
Totally.
Like if I
Totally.
don't know, I can find the answer for you.
Absolutely.
Do you feel like
Absolutely.
that's like a concierge based attitude too, right? Because people come to you and you're not gonna know
Everything.
everything, or you're
Yeah.
not gonna know like if they can do what they're asking, but like you have this can do, like, okay, I'm gonna pursue that and get back to you.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think that that's what makes a good a difference between just a concierge and a good concierge. It's the attitude entirely.
Yeah.
Because again, it's like you're, and I even like talked about this in my book, but it's like what you're conveying in that is like when if somebody comes to you with a request and you're like, I don't know, but let me go ahead and find out for you. You are instantly telling them that you are like you are valuing their request or um their interests just as much as they are, and it immediately
Yeah.
puts you on the same team as them. So even if like you come back with a no, they're like, well, we know she tried.
Right.
But it's such a wonderful attitude towards life
Life.
that it's like there's no day is the same.
Yeah.
Yesterday was completely different. Yesterday was crazy for me.
Right.
And then it's like I think back on like what I did and it's like and it's so different than like today. And
Yeah.
today is very different. In the afternoon it could get crazy. I don't know what's going to happen. Like I could get asked to like land a helicopter somewhere and I'll be like, "Okay,
All
well let's
right.
figure it out." Like I don't know, but
So walk us through, like, I mean, I remember you were auditioning and,
Mhm.
like, no surprise, you were multitasking when you arrived to LA, but like, walk us through how, like, what it looked like when you first got there and,
Yeah.
your path essentially into concierge.
Totally. So kind of like in an overview nutshell. So when I moved, a lot of people when they move to a city, the biggest thing is also like finding a community of people.
Oh,
And to me, I
absolutely.
knew, and I'm talking about like I knew this at 21, 22. I was
Yeah.
like, okay, well, two things. I need to be enrolled in some sort of school or courses so I can meet people that way, and I need a job because those
Yeah,
are my two ways that I'm going to start meeting people, which I did. And I basically was doing like acting school, a continuation of acting and producing.
it's
So
great.
I was taking film courses as well.
And
Um,
finding like-minded
yeah, finding
individuals.
like-minded people. And then on top of that, I was like, okay, I'm gonna find a job. I was like, well, I love the creative thing. Maybe I'll work in radio. Didn't get, by the way, this is going back to what I said before, like what's supposed to come your way will be frictionless. And
Yeah,
so I was like, oh, I'm gonna go do radio. I love that. I was very qualified. I had already had working experience, could not get a job in radio. I applied at a hotel because I was like, well, at least I can get benefits
yeah.
and that'll get me somewhat
Going
like,
back to like your experience already in college.
yeah, exactly. And I applied as a cocktail server or bartender, and the general manager was like, I think you'd make a better concierge. I had lived in Los Angeles not even 3 weeks. I knew nothing about the city, which I was very upfront about. I was like, I told him, I was like, hey, I don't know anything, but I'm good
You're
with
like,
maps.
but listen, if you have a map, I will have
I
that memorized
Wait a
by the
second. Oh
time.
my gosh. I just connected the two. So I always say, I was like, because I said to him, I was like, I'm good with maps.
Oh,
No
there you
joke, I
go.
said that.
That's that
And now
Georgetown
you reminding
training
me of
coming
map
at
of the
you.
modern world. I'm like, no, dude, you don't understand. Like, I had to know the map of the modern world. I can totally figure out where Wilshire Boulevard and Santa Monica
Exactly. You're
Boulevard
like, if I
intersect.
can spit out every country at the highest possible level, I can definitely figure out a map.
It's like, no, totally. So, oh my gosh, that's so funny. Just connecting the map comment and joke because I've used that joke forever. So yeah, so that's how I kind of like got into being a concierge. And I mean, I knew nothing, but I was like, well, I'll learn this city. And it ended up being something that was like, I call it one of my Bob Ross happy accidents that I ended up being really good at because I understood people from different backgrounds,
Yeah.
socioeconomic backgrounds, religious backgrounds, ethnic backgrounds. Like it didn't matter. I could deal with an international guest or somebody from a different part of the country. Like if somebody asked me about catering, like getting Nobu for their private plane, I'm like, okay. Like it wasn't like, what? It was
What?
just like,
Yeah.
oh, okay, cool. I was like, this is fun. Let's figure this out.
Right.
So kind of having that open-mindedness that like nothing would really shock me. It would just be more of like, oh, let's figure this out.
Yeah.
This and I just had the right attitude from the start. So ended up being very good at it. And then I was pursuing acting and going out a lot. And then to kind of like fast forward through that, I ended up being at several different properties in Los Angeles over a long period of time. And I ended up being like, well, we may be jumping the gun on this, but I had been working at hotels, and that was very much my day job. And then in
And then the
20,
same type of hotel as you would say, like were the
of
Four
course,
Seasons
yeah.
type
So
shit.
exactly. So my first hotel was the L'Hermitage, and it was a five-star, five-diamond hotel.
Oh, there you go.
We called it the L'Hermitese at the time because we had a lot of people in the music industry there. Go figure. I mean, and it was just fun. It was great. And then after being there for about 2.5 years, I ended up going to the Peninsula Hotel, which
Just
was an
absolutely known for their
it's the best
incredible
hotel in the city. I
service.
still think it's the best hotel
Yeah.
in the city to this day. And I don't work at any of them. So it's where I send my clients that I know that have like a specific like
Need.
expectation.
And I'm sure the
And
clients, I mean, I've had the pleasure of staying at like two peninsulas before, and
okay, yeah,
those, one like in Thailand, so it's
yes,
absolutely
amazing,
insane.
fantastic.
And I've seen it in New York,
Mhm.
but some of those clients there were like, that is their hotel all
Oh,
over the world. They stay only there for years. Like,
yep,
what is that? I mean, coming to the concierge of the peninsula, I would imagine like the amount of
that was hard.
demands or pressures, and they are used to like Jen who works there, and they've worked with her for 10 years, or like what does that feel like being in that
Wow. I
shoes?
love that you're asking that question because that was a very challenging. So very much where like L'Hermitage, I got my bearings. I got to figure out what it meant to be and like work as a concierge. And then the peninsula, it's interesting because I was still pretty young. I was 25, and
Oh,
I was
wow.
probably younger than the rest of my colleagues by, I would always say it was like by 15 years. It wasn't really 15. It was like, but I was younger than everybody else on the team by 10 years. And
Yeah.
at 25, 25 to 35, like that seemed like a lot at
Oh,
the time.
absolutely. I mean, every year in your 20s is like 10
Yeah,
normal years.
totally. So I was fighting against like people didn't like the clients staying there were like, this girl's not going to know anything.
Yeah,
And I was actually maybe better than some others just because I was still hungry,
sure.
and I
Yeah.
had that drive to like, I'm going to figure it out. But I remember going into work being nervous because like I didn't know what was going
What
to
it
be
was going
thrown
to
at me.
be.
And I knew all I knew is that no was not an option. And I had to figure it out. And
Yeah.
I would go in heavily caffeinated to be like, I gotta be on my A game. And it was tough. And then obviously by the end of my time working there was about 5 years, far more comfortable and confident. It's like, hey, it is what it is. We figure it out. I had a fantastic mentor who, by the way, is still a dear friend to this day. We worked together on different things, and he still had concierge there. But like, he just had the cool as a cucumber attitude, and that was what I needed. And it was like I had such great foundations at the L'Hermitage, and then the Peninsula just took everything I did to the next level.
Yeah,
Like that was
absolutely.
like, and it's always been said, it's like if you can be a concierge at the Peninsula, you can be a concierge anywhere. I don't know a desk that runs anything like that. I'm not even talking
Wow.
about Vegas that has like they might have 50 concierge, that's a whole different ball game. Even some of the other high-end hotels in Los Angeles, like Beverly Hills, whenever concierge from some of those other hotels would come to the peninsula at some point in their career, they were like,
Wow.
nothing's
Yeah.
ever been this challenging. And I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah, dude, this is a different beast.
Yeah.
Like,
What would
it
you
is,
say if you can remember like your most challenging tasks during that time there?
um, gosh, that's so crazy. Like the challenging, I mean, like it would be kind of like the fun things where it would be like, okay, great. I want to leave tomorrow. I'm gonna be coming here. My girlfriend's gonna be coming here. Said like it's funny because now I can do this in my sleep, but at the time I was like, oh wow. They were like, arrange our two flights, then we're landing at the same time. We want to go ahead and have like La Perla lingerie delivered and have it here. And so like that orchestrating bigger things like that was definitely unusual because most of my stuff was so LA
Yeah.
oriented. So
Yep.
for them for a client to be like, no, I want you to help me somewhere else. That was definitely a bit like like opened
Sure.
my mind to a lot. It's funny because that's all I do now.
Yeah.
Um, my client will be like, I'm in Singapore the next couple of nights. Where should I go eat? I'm like, let me figure that out for you. Um, so
So you went from there to Peninsula to then where?
So I got to a point where I was like, hold up. And I like to share these moments because this is so important and it's kind of echoed what happened when I was in college and different times where I'm like, I'm very in touch with what feels like it's right. And I was
Yeah.
like, this doesn't feel like it's right. And I am so exhausted because it was so strenuous of an environment to work in.
Oh, yeah,
I
I
was like,
can't even
I
imagine.
do not have the bandwidth to pursue anything else. And I feel like I'm cheating my life. And no shade to anybody that ends up being a career hotelier or anything like that. But I was
Sure.
like, I know I have more to give. And this is sucking the actual life out of me. And so I quit without a job lined up to have a moment to like regroup. And I was like, maybe I'll work at a restaurant again. I did that. It didn't feel right. I worked with a producer on a couple of movies, didn't love that either.
Hmm.
And because I felt like I was, I love this phrase. I felt like I was like a Ferrari at at a Toyota in a Toyota job. You know what I mean? In the sense that like I was so experienced and I was doing these jobs that I was like I had so much more experience that
Sure.
I was like, okay, well this doesn't feel right. This feels like a major step down. So
Yeah.
like how can we like bridge the gap? And my boyfriend at the time was like, well, why don't you try applying for a job at like a different hotel? And I'm like, ugh, as a concierge. And I'm like,
Yeah.
oh,
And you're
I
like, I
don't want to.
just came from like the epitome of
And
like
I
concierge.
totally, I was offered a head concierge, the head concierge at the Hotel Bel Air. I turned it
Oh,
down. They thought it
wow.
was crazy. The Four Seasons offered me one. I was like, mm-mm, And because my gut was like, it's just going to be the same type of environment I was just
Yeah.
in. Like, why
Right.
am I doing that? I need something totally different. Ended up at the London Hotel, which what is an independent hotel. And again, showing you where like trusting your gut to be like,
Yeah.
I knew the other environment wasn't the right environment. It had served its purpose. So grateful for it, but I was like, I need something else. And so I ended up at the London and sure, I'm talking about within 2 months of me starting there, I'm like, okay, cool. I started taking a writing course. And
Okay.
because I've been doing comedy and I've been doing a lot of comedy with different individuals. And a friend of mine were like, oh, let's do a web series. So we take this writing course together to do our web series, which by the way, never ended up happening. But part of the assignment was we all had to do a vlog. And the assignment was like, everybody needs to do a weekly vlog, a video blog about, and like you're educating people, something that you're an expert in. And if you
Yeah.
don't know what you're an expert in, take a step back and think about what are the most common questions that people ask you, be it your
Yeah.
friends, family, whatever. And I
And
share
what
that again,
year is this now, right?
2012.
Yeah. Because so
So this,
much, because like for technology, you have to think of like, where were you
yeah.
at this
So
moment? Because
like
it just
social
grows so
media is
quickly.
like Instagram had just been out for like a year
Yeah.
and a half or so. YouTube was obviously like, still like growing. And so I remember, but I share that specifically because I think all too often when people are doing transitions in their lives, they're like, well, I don't know what I offer, what I bring to the table. And I love that exercise of being like, well,
What do you
literally doing an
enjoy?
audit, like what do people ask me about the most? And then you might find out like, oh my gosh, everybody asked me about how to make pies, whatever
Yeah.
it is. So and then I'm like, well, I get asked on a daily basis what to eat, see, do in LA. I'm just going to call it Ask a Concierge. It's going to be a dumb assignment. Nobody's going
Yeah.
to watch this. By the way, the videos still exist on YouTube because I kept them up so that people can see the
The
transition,
evolution.
the
Yep.
evolution, exactly. And I did that and it was interesting because it like pretty quickly took off. Like I was in class and they were like, "We love this." I'm like, "You live in LA. Why do you care about restaurants? Don't you know what restaurants to go to?" And they're like, "No." And I'm like, "Huh?
What?
Don't you know what to do?" They're like, "No." And then all of a sudden I realized, wow, my information is not only appealing to travelers coming to Los Angeles, it's
Yeah.
also people living here that are
Right.
looking for things to do.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, maybe there's something to this. And then it very quickly grew because I was again a time in my life where I'm like, it's social media. So long as you don't say anything offensive or something that's gonna like
Yeah.
come back and don't be rude online because it's like
Yeah.
you're
It'll
putting it
stay
out there.
forever.
I was like, just throw spaghetti at the wall and see what works.
Yeah.
Like and so there was never an ego around it. I was like, well, just try and like people either respond to it, they don't respond to it. And you just kind of go from there and it quickly grew and other brands wanted to work with me. And because I was at an independent hotel, they were like, the
And
more
how did
you
you grow that following? Was it more like you just put it out there and you just let it go, or were you really
yeah.
sitting and trying to figure out how to
No,
make it
no,
work?
I was trying to figure it out, but I mean, I definitely like, and so I then was like, okay, I'm gonna work evenings, and they're like, wait, you're a senior employee here, like, you want to work evenings? I'm like, yes, and I dedicated my mornings to like, I worked all the time on social media, was super active, so then by the time I went into work at like 2:30 or 3 or whenever, I had already had a full work day on
Yeah.
building my brand because I was like,
Okay.
I want to build my brand when I'm freshest, and that's first thing in the morning,
Yeah.
and
And
then I'll
this
do
is
the other.
just you at the time, like you doing it completely
Yeah.
on your own. Yeah.
Oh, totally. Totally. And it's gone through different evolutions where I would like, I hired my then boyfriend at the time to help me like do videos and edits. And then I started working with a different team. And so it's definitely evolved and it's still to this day, it's evolution. I have a call later today with a very big company that wants to like work with me on doing something that I'm like, I'm like looking up here because I have a little like whiteboard vision board that like I've had this idea on my vision board
Oh,
for
amazing.
2 years. And like to see it come to fruition is
Yeah.
like, what?
But yeah.
But it's like, again, it's always trying stuff and
Right. Not
I'm
by
having a
accident
conversation
either.
with totally. And I'm like,
Yeah.
dude, we'll try this. I was like, we have to give ourselves like a time period to try this, but like we'll see and we'll know in a month whether it works or not. And they're like, you're down? I'm like, of course I'm down. That's what's so great about social media. It's real-time feedback.
Yeah.
You will know what is working based on how people are responding to you. And it just, you just don't have an ego about it. Like,
And
whatever.
so would you consider that now like your main, like where you put most of your kind of creative energy and
Sure.
main pursuit into that?
Definitely. So right now, like my business definitely, it would be kind of like sort of three verticals. So one is very much the part that you see on social media. So it's the social media, the creatives. I get hired to go film in destinations. I also do spokesperson work for a lot of big brands. So I'll do like TV segments for them, et cetera, because I've built enough of a personal brand as an independent travel expert that
Right.
the brands will hire me to like kind of like pat them on the back type thing.
Sure. Yeah.
So very much a social media spokesperson. Then, because of all my years of working in hospitality, I ended up writing a book during the pandemic, and
Amazing.
so that's very much my. So if the social media and the speaking stuff, that's like B2C. I'm
Yeah.
speaking to travelers. Then there's the B2B side of my business where I'm helping educate other hoteliers and people in the hospitality industry. So those are the speaking engagements with that, my book. I'm also working on a second book, which I can't wait for, but
Wow.
I have
And
to
so
really
was the
carve out the
book
time.
like a product of the pandemic and like less travel, or was it because I feel like you've always enjoyed writing. Was it more like now I have the space to pursue something, or like
Totally.
how did that
So
evolve?
and I have my three book ideas. Like I have three books in me. I know this, and I even have like, and the titles come. I come up with the title, and then it kind of work backwards that way. And so I know what the second book is, and I've known for 2 years. And I mean, I did 110 flights last year. I'm just coming off of,
Crazy.
while we were trying to schedule having this
Yeah.
call, I'm just coming off of like, I have been home for like 4 days in the past 6 weeks. I mean, I'm doing all I can to keep things going, yet alone writing. And,
Yeah.
I've tried working with a ghostwriter. And very admittedly, my first book, I wrote myself. I even formatted it myself. So any
And what was your
mistakes or
first book
typos,
called so we can plug it?
oh my gosh, do I have it? I have a copy here somewhere. Hospitality from Within. So yeah, so it was a hospitality book, and it came in the pandemic because I had the free time, like to like really focus on writing it, and B, I knew I was transitioning out of working in the day to day of a
Yeah.
hotel, and I was
Hmm.
like, how can this be my way of giving back to the industry, to the career, and like, because I knew I had a book in me, but I was like, I'm not doing a tell all. Like
Yeah.
that's just not my
Yeah.
style. I know a lot about a lot of
Right.
people, but
Yeah.
like that's not my style to share that.
Sure.
So like, how can I give back in a positive way? And so
And it would
that's
almost
how.
have been like anti your profession, right? Because like the
Oh,
concierge is like the
totally.
secret keepers of the entire hotel.
Oh, for sure. And like not only the hotel, but like of clients, like
Sure.
the
Yeah.
information that I am privy to, and like, but it's like, but that's like the fun of it. It's like, oh, we
Yeah.
can just do this in the background while we have
Right.
like all this other stuff going on.
Yeah.
So that's where that really came from. And it's been this wonderful tool and this lesson, and hearing just how many people responded so well to it.
And did you
Uh,
self-publish it?
yeah, I
Yeah.
self-published.
Amazing.
Was a great move to do. I have a lot of feelings on self-publishing versus publishing. I mean, I also already had a built-in audience, so I wasn't like coming out of the
Yeah.
gate like I had
Yeah.
people that were interested. It also allowed me a chance to be able to collect all of their data, like emails, etc. So as I push out a second book, people that were already buying the first book will definitely know about the second book. I should do a newsletter. I don't love doing newsletters because I don't like the idea of spamming people.
Yeah.
But I could do it if I wanted to. But yeah, so it's there's a lot of benefits to self-publishing, and
Hmm.
I have my eyes set on a publisher for this second book, but I have to just I want to be strategic about it, and I will either go with that publisher or self-publish, but I
Yeah.
want to make sure that um, they don't take my idea and run with it. I want to
Yeah.
protect my idea.
For
So,
sure.
That's my where I'm kind of at with that.
Yeah.
But
And would your
yeah.
third vertical be podcasting?
Oh, my third vertical. No, I consider podcasting part of like the content
First.
creating.
Sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I forgot about adding that. But yes, that is very much a big part of what I do. And but the third vertical is the vertical that most people don't see, and that is my work with my private clients.
Ah,
So I do lifestyle and travel management in essence for ultra high net worth individuals. So whether it's organizing private planes, exclusive travel experiences, I've got some that ask me to help them again. Um, Maybe they're growing their lives and they're like, we need to help get an estate manager. We trust your opinion. So whether I'm helping find estate managers, school counselors for their kids as they're going to school, like you name it, it's
wow.
travel. It's like it really is lifestyle management. And
And
that's
are
what's going on
these
in the
through
background
contacts like that you met in
over
concierge?
the years.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's over the years and then word of mouth.
Yeah.
And so that's the part of the business that I'm really eager to have my mom help me kind of grow out
For
just
sure.
because it is just it's about being very discreet. So it's knowing, somebody that I can trust, somebody that understands that world. And that we can kind of work together on like kind of fine tuning that. But that's a very fun part of the business, a very big part of the business. But it's so funny because it's like I
Or
never
private too.
really very
Yeah.
private and also because it's like my clients aren't necessarily on social media.
Yeah.
And so it's almost, I don't want to say it's almost a moot point to like advertise what I do online
Yeah.
because
They're
you
not looking online for that.
no, they
Although I
aren't.
will say one of my favorite people of all time follows you, and
Who?
Matthew Hussey.
Wait, Matthew Hussey follows me? Wait, hold
Yes.
on. Wait, that's
Yes.
news to me.
Yes.
Stop.
I love him. I went,
Wait, I'm going to check. What?
yes, he does.
I still get so geeked out when
I
like
know
people
we're
are.
having a fangirl moment, but he does follow your because I was looking at one of your recent videos and it said like mutual people, and I was like, oh, Matthew Hussey follows Sarah. So you love him just as much as I do,
A big fan. He like lives
apparently.
down the street. I've never met him. I remember I was like I even remember ending what was it? It was like a Valentine's Day and I went on a date with a guy that was like so dumb. It was like a second date.
And you're like, can you listen to
And
Matthew Hussey and do this date over again?
well wait, no, Matthew I right Matthew Hussey was like on a date with his now current wife.
Audrey. Yeah.
Yes. And I remember seeing them and I was like, "Oh, that's who he's dating now." Just because we happened to be at the same restaurant at the same time and I knew who he was, like whatever, you're just when you live in the same neighbor, welcome to life in Los Angeles.
Oh,
Uh,
absolutely.
is that
Well,
life
so
in
I
Los
have to tell you, so I have been a fan,
Angeles?
and we're going to just have like a fangirl moment, but
Yeah, let's have it.
I have been a fan of Matthew Hussey since my 20s because he used to do interviews for Z100 with like Elvis Duran and all of that,
You're right.
giving advice, and I would be like, the
Who
way
is this
he
guy?
has his messaging, and obviously his sound, everything sounds amazing in an accent, in a
Yeah,
British
sure,
accent.
sure.
But I found him to be so on the mark. Just I was just like, wow,
He's
I've never
great.
thought about that perspective. And, once I got into a longer term relationship, I was not looking for dating advice. So I kind of lost track of his content. But anytime I would hear it, I would be like, wow, that's so smart. Um,
Yeah.
Fast forward, he does a retreat in Florida once a year. And
Ooh.
2 years ago, I went to the in-person retreat, which
Oh
was
my
like
God.
on my bucket list because his content started evolving. I mean, talking
Yeah,
about like your mom and your journey in terms of like people taking stock for themselves
yeah,
and what makes them happy and outside of a relationship, just like
yeah.
checking in with yourself and what makes you happy and what your passion project is. So I went for like a 6 day retreat, and it was, I kid you not, life-changing because not
No
only is the
way.
community amazing, because you meet people, I mean, just as you said, when you pursue something that draws like-minded individuals, you find
Yeah.
your community very quickly.
Yeah.
And
Oh my
it's
gosh.
at that time, it's all women. And
I am
so,
like dying over
yeah,
this.
so we met, and Audrey was there, and they were
Okay.
getting married the next week.
No
Um, yeah, and
way.
so it's a very small group of people. So I got a chance to meet him, meet Audrey, meet Steven, his brother, his mom. Like you get to really spend time with them. And sometimes they say like don't meet the people, don't meet your
Yeah, 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 of
mentors.
course.
I came away thinking like not only did I admire their work before we went in, but when you actually meet them as people, I was like, I'm a lifelong fan, and that
Yeah,
retreat changed my life. And the people that I met through that retreat, there was like six of us that really connected. We meet once a year now, and in
yeah.
2 weeks we're going, and they're from all over the world.
I love this.
And two of my girlfriends, and now I'm gonna have to ask you what we should do. But we're going are in Germany. So one, I'm from Florida, another one of us from Colorado, another from California, Puerto Rico, Munich, and Rome, and
I
we are
love it.
meeting together, and we're going to Oktoberfest in Munich, and then we're
Exciting.
traveling to Italy and
Amazing.
doing like a little tour. But that's all through that retreat. So when I was looking, I was like, oh my God, Matthew Hussey follows Sarah. She must be like, so amazed. But I'm sure is that wild to you sometimes when you hear people that like you admire
Did you
following
just
you?
see my genuine reaction? I had no idea. I definitely have pinch me moments. I definitely have pinch me, yeah, for sure. I mean, there's so many different people that I admire and respect. I mean, I remember one of my first moments that I was just kind of, I started doing some work with Marriott and Marriott hotels, and I don't know, it was one night I was like casually like scrolling. I was following their page, and I was like, oh, they follow me. And they had just had like a big conference, and I know that they had shared some of my videos in the conference, but I don't know the extent of it because I wasn't there. And I just was going through, I was like, oh, who else do they follow? And then I'm looking at their follow list, and I'm like, a bunch of these people, who are these people?
Yeah.
And they're all following me. And then I like looked some more, and I was like, oh my gosh, it's all like the C-suite execs. And I was like,
No way.
whoa, that's huge. And then on top of that, oh my gosh, what is his name? Who I'm totally blanking of, from Studio 54, who then did Edition Hotels. Oh my gosh, what is his name? Hold on, it's gonna come to me in just a second. Oh, Ian Schrager. Ian
Oh, wow.
Schrager, who is like
Yeah.
the father of boutique hotels, was following me, and I was like, oh my
Wow.
gosh, this is
Yeah.
crazy. And that's also when I had a moment where, it's also this reminder as far as like the content that you put out there. I had friends over and we had gone for a hike, and I never do this. My content's very like PG, and I was doing something crazy, and I like was like flipping a bird in a story.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then somebody from like another country was like, that's rude. And I'm like, bro, chill.
Yeah.
And then I was like, mm, that's not my brand. I'm going to take that down. And I took it down. It didn't even last more than like 4 hours. And I remember that happened. And then maybe it was 2 days later, I started noticing who was following me. And
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, I already knew this, but this was a reminder that I'm like, what you're putting out there is a business. And so you
Yeah.
need to act
Right.
accordingly. And
Yep.
so, maybe you don't want to do things that are offensive, or there's just certain parameter.
Or
If
can just
certain
be
parameters in play,
interpreted a different
totally.
way.
I'm hired by certain brands because they know I'm safe. They know what to expect. They know I'm not going to be like cursing. They know I'm not going to be talking like politics or things or religion or things that you just like. They know that I'm running my personal brand as a
Yeah.
business
Yep.
and very much staying in that lane. So that was a really interesting reminder. But yeah, I've had a couple of moments when I'll be like, oh, they follow me, that's so cool.
I mean, speaking of pinch me moments, I mean, you did a TEDx talk
I did
called The Secret to Making Someone
feel special.
Special, Feel Special. Um, how did that come to be and what did that feel like? And also,
Oh my
I mean,
gosh.
for those that haven't seen it, what I thought was so interesting is you talked about the human touch of
Yes,
what it means to actually make someone feel special, not
totally.
things that you put
Materialistic
money
things.
towards
Yeah.
up and because people may think, oh well, you make someone feel special because you create this experience that costs a lot of money.
Yeah.
You broke that down in a way that made it so that anyone could listen to your TEDx talk and feel like it was within reach, like
Reach, of
all of
course.
that. So how did that come to be? How did that feel? And like, how did you feel like the messaging resonated?
So great. So another one of those, I'm looking up there, was always on my vision board as far as doing a TEDx. I ended up working with a coach for that. It very much fell into my lap. I had a friend of mine that worked with a coach, and I paused and I'm very open about this because I was like, look, I am so busy. There's no way I'm doing this without somebody
Yeah,
nudging me along. Like
yeah.
that's just the
A
reality of it.
lot of
And I think that's
pressure
some.
too.
Totally. Well, I also think it's a reminder for so many of us because so many of us were like, we have stuff on our to-do list or our professional goals, and then we never like hit those marks because we don't seek outside help. And there's a reason why people hire coaches or they do that. And so never shy away from that. Never feel like you're not doing the
Absolutely.
work just because you're getting help. Like that's
Yeah,
how you get stuff over the finish line.
right.
So I worked with a coach. And I actually thought I didn't love the idea at first, the topic. Like I worked with them, I wanted something more cerebral and this, and they were like, "No, it's just this simple." And I'm like, "Well, I agree wholeheartedly because that's
Yeah.
the one thing I definitely learned very early on in working in very, very wealthy environments is that money does not buy you happiness.
Hmm.
And so to see the most thoughtful things or the biggest responses have been some things from experiences that didn't necessarily cost a lot of money. It was just thoughtful. So this has always been a theory or a belief, a mindset that has always been woven into my life for decades. So what was great about working with this coach, again, all too often where we take for granted what we know the most because it's so close to us, it's under our nose, we can't see it. So
Yeah.
same with working with a coach, he was like, "No, this is your message." And I'm
Yeah.
like, "Dude, you're right. Like this is
Yeah.
my message to core. Like
Right.
I could scream this from the mountaintop." So I worked with them. They helped submit, and it all came together. And it was crazy because normally you have like 3 months to prepare. And mind you, you're not, there's no teleprompter. It's scripted. You have to be on script, off book, no rogue
Yeah.
things. Like it's timed. And normally there's a 3 month runway up to it. I had 5 weeks,
Oh,
and
wow.
3 of those weeks I was on a very intense trip going throughout Southeast Asia. So by the time it all came back, I like had to learn my script 7 days prior to this. It was
Oh,
very
gosh.
stressful.
Yeah.
Um,
Your
it was
acting had to have come all
everything,
that training.
everything. And I
Yeah.
definitely had moments where I was like, if I all of my years of doing all the random 25 million jobs that I've ever had at one time
Yeah.
are coming to play in this moment because I'm having to rely on my experience and everything. And so it it like really came. It's crazy how it came together, and it was so well received, and it's just been so special.
Questions.
Yes.
Um,
Okay.
okay, so I find it so interesting that your TED Talk talks so much about human touch, right?
Yes.
And
Human connection.
and human connection. And what does that feel like now with AI?
I
I
knew
mean, we
you were
even
going to go there.
yeah, I mean, we even talked about Chat GPT with your mom, right?
Yeah.
Now there's this let's use AI for everything. We can book reservations, we can create itineraries. There's scenarios where AI can mimic, almost feel
Yeah,
like human reasoning.
totally.
So for something that is like a service industry,
Mhm.
in many ways, but that values human touch, how do you think like AI is really affecting the industry itself? And like, what does that outlook look
So
like?
it's absolutely impacting it. more and more people get comfortable using it, use it as AI grows its
Yeah,
own intelligence.
sure.
It's going to change the landscape. But again, I think the key is like whatever you're doing, whatever your profession is like know how to use AI to your advantage. I have very open conversations with my clients about this who are incredibly intelligent. They'll be like, hey, we know that we're going to be having dinner in Singapore. We looked up some of these restaurants on ChatGPT, sharing that with you. Like, what should we do? And I end up going through, and half the time they're closed or they don't exist anymore. It's not open on a Tuesday night
Yeah.
or
Yep.
whatever it is. So they've needed me to go through and double check that.
Right.
But the other thing is, and he said this verbatim, and I love it, is he was like, I can look this up on Chat GPT. He's like, but I value you for your discernment. And
Yeah. So true.
that discernment is that human element that is so important. So again, I feel like we're going to be shifting from, we're going to be going very heavy AI focus, but the element of there's always going to be a want and a need and a craving for human connection, and whether it's delivering that information that way. Um, Case in point, I there is a company that's been doing an AI voiceover of some news stuff, and they get a lot of backlash online about how they're like, I can't believe like this is so not interesting. You're basically having an AI voice tell us
Yeah.
something. And they reach out to me. They're like, well, we'd love you to be like the face and voice of this. Let's give it a try. And that's the thing that I'm like, we'll see. Maybe
Yeah.
people are like, we prefer AI versus like real Sarah. But I have a feeling they're going to be like, oh, we love it. It's a real person that we can interact with. So I have a feeling it'll be another example of how like people are always going to crave the human connection and interaction. It just might look and feel a bit different.
Yeah, and also as you said, like even there's a connection between others in your industry that allows for amazing experiences to happen because you have a network as well that your clients can rely on too. I mean, I just think of a small human connection, how you co-host with Steve
Yeah.
Turk, who
Yeah.
is my best friend's brother.
Yeah. That's right.
Yes. And I was thinking, I mean, Rick, Steve's brother, was in my wedding. Uh,
Wait, hold on. I think I forgot about this. I need to bring
yes.
this up because I'm seeing Steve tomorrow.
Yes, because you were alive for your
Yeah.
first episode of, for those that don't know, you host, right, a Good Morning
Yeah.
Hospitality every
Good morning,
Wednesday.
hospital. Exactly. Wednesday. This week we're doing it Thursday. But yes.
And
Uh,
I saw it live and I was like, my mind was blown because I was like, my roommate is with my best friend's brother and they're
who,
hosting.
by the way, Steve and I, because I know you're a June baby as well.
Yes,
Uh, and wait, 16th?
20th.
20th. Okay.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, I was like, we're so close. He and I, same year, exactly a week apart. He's June 2nd and I'm June 9th. So
Yeah.
I'm like, what are the odds of all of that?
And all these Geminis actually understanding one another.
That
But
too. That too.
I just, and it's wild because I've experienced Steve's career via Rick, and him evolving too.
Doesn't that partnership, by the way, make so much sense?
And I'm like, why didn't I think of that myself? Right
I,
when I saw it, I was like, oh my God, the
the two
world
of us, our
is so
trajectories,
small.
like I absolutely like adore him and
Oh,
I
wonderful.
love his background and how his brain works. Like, and we're different in different ways, and yet, and obviously there's a lot of similarities. But it's so cool. Like I remember a couple episodes in, I was like, dude, you need to stop giving free advice on the internet because you are sharing some gems here that like you need to hold and pay, like make people pay a consulting fee for because his brain is just so great and like curious and how he does that. And again, it's so funny this like this random trajectory and like how we got paired together all these years
Yeah,
later.
I mean, it was such a wild moment for me where I was like, one, I can't even believe what I'm seeing right
Yeah,
now. And I think I commented like,
you
you
did.
guys, it's me and I know both of you. And you were like, wait, Vina, how do you know them? Her.
Totally.
But it's also just an example of like how your industry is based on a lot of like human connection and like you
Totally.
guys have had different but similar trajectories and now you have this like, moment every week where you're sharing
Yeah.
things with one another.
Yes.
But another question I did have is like to bring that type of effort that you
Yeah.
brought to your daily, life when you were working in person at hotels, but now even to your content, you said you traveled like 110 flights.
Flights.
So
Yeah. Not
how do
maybe not that much
you
this year, hopefully.
how do you maintain that? I mean, that is such a momentum, and like you said, you are wired differently. But how do you leave space in your personal life? Like, because I'd imagine, right? Like it blends, right? You're doing
Yeah,
things that blend.
totally.
It's your passion, but it does take so much genuine energy to do that. So, like, does that then make your personal life like how do you maintain that level? Like there's only so many things, right,
Yeah,
that
for
can
sure.
go at 110%.
My
How have you found that to
well,
juggle that?
I love that you say that because my favorite, I'm a huge fan of Professor Scott Galloway. And I remember how he said just recently, he was like, you can have it all. You may not be able to have it all at the same time,
Sure.
which
Yeah.
is a great reminder. And he also said some other things that I will can lean into in a second there. But I mean, like, look, when it comes to like personal, I have incredible friends
Yeah.
that all do like really cool, unique things. Everybody's very like independent and comfortable. They're all comfortable enough that that's like cool, like you're in town, let's get together or this.
Yeah.
And so they love and they're also like great cheerleaders. Like they
That's
follow
great.
up and that's not always the case for for friendships. And
Yeah.
just as much as they cheer me on, I cheer them on. And it's like, okay, like this is a challenge that's going on at work. Let's talk it through. Like what makes sense. And so I feel like it's not necessarily about like the quantity of the amount of time, but it's like the quality. Like we
Quality.
just
Yeah.
really have good. I've always been a big fan of quality time. That it's like I just want it to be, again, it comes down to like real, genuine connections. So for that, I mean, it's a balance. I think more so it's always been like carving out time for myself.
Yeah.
But I mean, I have a date tonight, so
Oh, there we go.
so we'll see. I've
Tell him
got
to
my
tell him to read Matthew Hussey's books before you
I
go
will.
anywhere.
I will. But again,
Um,
I mean, it's an interesting thing because like people are like, "Oh my gosh, do you even have time for a relationship?" And I'm like, "Yes, when there is one." But again, quoting Professor Scott Galloway, he found so women generally, when women are single, what they end up using their free time for is for something constructive.
yeah.
Women lean into either working out or doing things that like help them with their mental health, or they
Sure.
work more, or they're using their free time in a constructive way. And so when people are like, oh my gosh, you work all the time, I'm like, no, no, I make free time, but if I have nothing else going on, I'm just going to be productive with it
Yeah.
because that's how I'm wired.
Right.
But does it mean that I like don't make I absolutely will make time for people at weddings and big things and all. I missed a lot of that because I was working in hotels, and now I'm like I'm my own boss. So
Yeah.
big events I'm not going to miss anymore.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a balance. It always is a balance.
Yeah. And so last but not least, I love to always end our episodes in kind of reflection. And
Sure.
so, if you just knowing where you've been and you have created absolutely your own path, you've followed your own passions, you've listened to your gut when things have felt like not right or felt just as you hoped, you've made your vision board come to life. But so much of that is your experience, right? Like
Yeah,
you've
yeah.
gone through such a journey. If you could, what would you tell like your young self? Like knowing where you've been now and like thinking of Sarah at like 7 or 10 or 16 or even 21, like what advice would you give your young self if you could go back?
I think that what would be just to like, oh gosh, it's tough because so much of it is like you like learn along the way. But I'd say is like to maybe stress a little less. You know, it's like I think I do a pretty good job at like always trying to find the fun.
Sure.
And so but then I'm also like very much like, hey, when it is go time, like I want to stress making sure like we get stuff done. And so
Yeah.
maybe it would be like to just like relax a little bit because
Enjoy
like
the
it
journey.
enjoy it. Not that I don't enjoy it, but
Yeah.
just like just relax just a little bit because like it will work out. But then I also like hesitate to say that because I'm like, would certain things be how they are or turned out the way they would if I didn't care as much or didn't
Yeah.
push as much. So it's a little bit of a fine balance, but I would definitely say is like relax a little bit because it is all going to work out in your favor.
Hmm.
Um, but still keep trying, obviously.
Well, I honestly could not be more proud of your journey and to just think of us like going into Harbin in our freshman like room and
Carbon
all the
8.
dreams. I know, Harbin 8, the dreams and hopes that we shared with one another and just to like have seen your journey evolve and that you always really stay true like to yourself that you are your brand. I think it's amazing because there's so much out there where you're like, who is that person? Are they really like that? And I
Yeah.
think that is why I have always felt like we've stayed in touch because anytime I see you, I'm like, that's Sarah. Like, I know that's Sarah. Like, it is, I mean, of course, she is her brand. And I know
Yeah.
that from when you were like 18, like, you exude like happiness and thoughtfulness and just like this zest for life. And I think we all benefit from that. And I'm just so proud that you've really like listened to your passions and you've made it into this like beautiful career
Oh my
and that
gosh.
you left the pack and you're still doing that. And
And
I can't
still
wait
all
to
the
see.
time leaving the pack. And that it's a
Yeah.
continual process that like we're always going to find ourselves in situations where we have to leave the pack. And like my mom is leaving the pack. Like
Yeah.
it shows that like
Unbelievable.
a
It never
continual
stops.
journey. Exactly for all of
But
us.
thank you for doing this. I love you,
I appreciate
and
it.
I'm just so proud of you. And I can't wait to see where your life takes you
Where it
next.
goes. Oh my gosh. No, same. Thank you. This has been like, wow, such a wonderful walk down memory lane, but then also very cool. So I'm so glad we did this.
Yay, and we're gonna have to do episode 2, 3, and 4 soon.
Yes, please.
All right. Well, thanks again.
Thank you.